Hey everyone, good evening. Welcome. So excited to have you on this beautiful Tuesday evening, whether you're watching at home on your computer or on your tablet, or if you're out and about watching on your cell phone. Thank you so much for joining us. And without further ado, I want to get right into it. But first, I just wanted to give you a couple of notes. We are going to take live questions. So if you are watching on Google Plus, you can actually put your questions in the Q&A box. You should see that to the right or below, but there is a Q&A box where you can put your questions in there live. If you have any, go ahead and put them in there now so we can make sure that we get to them. Or you can tweet us. You can tweet Carolina Style Magazine, and that's at Carolina Style M on Twitter, and then we can take your questions. But I'm excited tonight because we had one of our fabulous contributing writers write about the finance bar. And when I read her story, I said, oh my goodness, we have got to get her on a live interview and have people ask questions. And this will be such a great thing for people who are looking to build their financial empire, whether you're just getting started, whether you have good credit, bad credit, whether you have, something kind of saved up and you're ready to move to the next level. This is all for you tonight. So you may have seen her, if not on Carolina Style, you may have seen her on Forbes.com. She's been on Yahoo Finance, Essence Magazine, NPR, the Tom Joyner Morning Show. The list goes on and on and on, but we have her here tonight. So good evening, Marsha. Welcome.
Hello. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here tonight. So excited to have you. Like I said, I want to get right into the questions. And one of the questions I received, let's start about credit cards. Let's talk about that. Tell us about credit cards. What's the real deal? Are they good? Are they bad? What's the deal with those?
I would say neither, Bridget. They're not good and they're not bad. And credit, I want people to understand that credit is not the enemy. Credit cards can really be used to build a really great financial standing. So it's not so much about the credit card, it's about the user. Credit cards should be used in circumstances where they have to be used. They're not to be used to keep up with a certain lifestyle. They're to be used, like I mentioned, to really build a financial to be proud of. So I would have to say that I don't agree with whether they're good or they're bad. I think that it's always in the standing of whoever has that credit card in their hand.
And if you have a credit card, should you try to keep your balance at zero? Should you try to keep a balance on there? What's the best way to manage your credit card?
The best way to manage a credit card, Bridget, is to always think about 30% or lower below your credit available limit. So that simply means is that whatever you owe, whatever available credit you have on there, always keep it below 30% and then pay that off every single month. So it's not about keeping a balance on there, but what the credit bureaus like to see is that you can effectively manage your credit. So just think in terms of using it, paying it off, using it, paying it off. So as I mentioned, it's not a bad thing. It's just use it to really make your credit score and always increase. That's the goal.
So let's talk a little bit about saving money. It's probably, hopefully, a little bit easier to save money if you make a lot of money. But what if you don't make a lot of money? How do you get to the point where you should start saving? How do you start saving? How much should you save? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, Bridget, the majority of the people that I speak with, they don't make a lot of money. And they do very well with saving. So I'll just use my parents as an example. I tell this story all the time. Both of my parents were laid off within months of one another. And it was not an emergency for them. Of course, it was an inconvenience, but they didn't make a lot of money. When I think about it, I don't think neither of them made as much money. But they didn't suffer from that because it's all about managing your money effectively. Now, when it comes to how much you should save, of course, you'll hear a lot of experts say, well, you should have at least 6 to 8 months of living expenses or income. And that's great. But for someone that has never saved, my goal is to say at least get 1 month of income in your savings account. At least 1 month, because what that means, Bridget, is that if you lose your job, you can at least survive for 1 month. And that's the goal. Like many years ago, prior to 2008, you may be aware that companies were hiring left and right. You could leave one job, go get another job the next month. It's not that easy now. For some people, it takes years to land another job, and especially to land another job making what you were making. So I would say, yes, I agree on 6 to 8 months of living expenses long term. But in the interim, if you've never saved, focus at least 1 month of income in your savings account and then grow it from there.
And I wanted to ask you in the beginning, tell me a little bit about the finance bar, about how you came up with this concept and this idea, and tell us a little bit about it.
That's why my parents, Bridget, that was really how I came up with the finance bar. Like when they got laid off, it was my parents, and then it was one of my closest friends. She was laid off from a job that she had been with over 12 years. And I said to myself that many people couldn't handle it as well as they were able to handle it. At the time that I launched the finance bar, food trucks became very popular in Charlotte. The food trucks were popping up, mobile fashion boutiques were popping up. Like they were everywhere. They were at corporations. They were at all of these events in town. They were everywhere. But what I said to myself is that that's awesome. But for many people, every single day, Bridget, they're stressed out at work. Like at least 50% of people are stressed out every single day. And I said, how awesome would it be if you had a mobile boutique or someone that could go into these corporations or sit outside, or people could come out on their breaks or their lunches or at events that corporations have and ask questions, get the answers that they need based on their particular situation. And now everyone knows that finances is really not a topic on college campuses. So I know that I needed to be there. That's really how I came up with the idea. It was not a long, drawn out business plan. I knew that it was a need. I know that it would be new to Charlotte and that it would take a while for people to catch on. Absolutely. But a need it was, and I just wanted to solve that gap.
And I'm telling you, catch on they did, because you just finished an event last week when we talked about, doing this hangout, and you mentioned you had an event. I was like, oh, great. Maybe I can tell people. You were like, oh, no, it's sold out already. So people are definitely catching on in Charlotte. I think you're going to do a tour, right? What's the next city?
I am. So I'll be in Charlotte. I'll be here again in June. But then next we're going to go to South Carolina. And after that, we're going to go to Georgia, back up to Virginia, and then DC. So we'll be doing that throughout this entire year.
And what is this mobile finance bar on wheels? Like, do you show up to corporations? And it does look pretty cool. When I read your interview, you said people probably request you because they love that bus. Tell me a little bit about the finance bar. Do you call it a bus, truck? What do you call it?
I call it a mobile hub. I call it like a mobile financial educational hub on wheels. And that's exactly what it is, Bridget. It's when corporations reach out to me or organizations. I show up in the bus so they can have either their employees to get on the bus, again, to ask questions, or on college campuses so I can work with students directly. And then that's not all I do, actually. Then I can also come to do workshops and seminars and things, or speaking engagements, things of that nature. But the overall concept is so I can literally meet people where they are. So if you're at work, you have someone to talk to at work about your finances, like beyond your health insurance, or having someone to show up at your job that can wash your car. It's giving you something that you really need and that most everyone think about at least one time.
So talk a little bit about home ownership. It's been labeled as the American dream, but is home ownership for everyone? And how do you know you're ready for home ownership?
I would have to say that home ownership, Bridget, may not be for everyone. It just depends. I think many years ago, the American dream has a different definition than it may have now. I think when you are ready for home ownership, when you're able to really balance. Like, are you able to pay your rent on time? Are you paying all of your other bills on time? Do you have a certain level of down payment to make? Because when it comes to renting a space and being a homeowner, it's entirely different. Like, you have more expenses, you have more home to heat, to air, insurance, taxes, maintenance. So you know it when I say they're ready for home ownership. And it should be more than I'm just tired of renting. Because a lot of people will say, oh, well, renting is wasting money. Well, not necessarily. Many people up north, they rent all the time. They never buy a home. And that's okay. It just depends on if you're someone that you are financially prepared to be a homeowner, looking for something more long-term, and you're not someone that moves around a lot. So there are a lot of different factors when it comes to home ownership.
And that's a good point about, maybe even not having enough money for rent, for home ownership. So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you feel, and what do you think the best method is to handle loaning money out to friends and family? Do you have a particular way you think that should be handled?
I do. I say, don't do it, Bridget, if you can't give it. If you can't give it, I definitely say don't loan it, because what happens is relationships are ruined when you lend money to someone and they never give it back to you. And then something else I would say, number two would be, if you cannot financially afford to care for yourself, you cannot do that for someone else. The saying goes, always put your own oxygen mask on first. And that's really how it goes, is that if you can't afford to give it, definitely don't lend it.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I think all of us have probably been in or know someone who's been in a situation where maybe you've lost a friendship or whatever over money. So that's a really good point. So if you have a little bit of money and you're ready to start saving and you're ready to start investing, what's the first step? What do you do?
Well, I would say if you're new to investing, Bridget, I love Investopedia.com. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, but Investopedia.com is a website that you can go to that teaches you a lot of terminology around investing. I would say that's the first step. Free information. You can go there, read up on it, because if you're new to investing, you typically don't know the terminology that goes with it. So that would be number one. Number two, I would say if you have at least $1,000 to invest, then seek out an advisor or a broker that can, okay, Bridget, what are your long-term goals? What is it that you want to see happen? Are you trying to invest this money so you can send your kids to college? And what is your available risk? Like, are you really able to risk that $1,000? Because investing is risky business. So it's essentially like giving somebody money to invest for you with the chances of it never growing at all. So I think those are the two things. Number one, research Investopedia.com to read up on the verbiage when it comes to investing. And then number two, seek out a trusted advisor or a broker that can really sit down and talk to you about your long-term goals and then your risk level. Both of those are really important.
And back up, talking about investment, speaking about investment, let's talk about education and college education. I remember there was a time when it was everybody go to college so you can get a job. And I think more so in the past, I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years or so, you go to college, it doesn't exactly guarantee a job, but a lot of students come out of college with lots and lots and lots of debt. So the question is, when it comes to college education, who do you think is responsible for that? Is it the parents or the children?
I would have to say, Bridget, it's combined. I'll use us as an example. Our son is in college now. He's going to his junior year.
College?
So it's a combined. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, college. I can't even. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. He'll be in his junior year next year. Well, next semester when they start back in, what is it, August, sometime around there. So we wanted him to go to college. He wanted to go to college. So for us, it was a combined effort. It was like, let's get you there, settled in. That was freshman year. Okay, we did that for him. Freshman year, after that, he joined Air Force National Guard. So now he's receiving money for college from the Air Force. He's also has a job on campus. So I think it's a combined effort. And I think it's important for parents to know that, number one, if you are still carrying student loans yourself, that you're paying forward, now paying for your kids' college education. That's an honest conversation, Bridget, because sometimes we get caught up in saying, okay, well, I'll send you to college. Not so. You're only sending a kid to college when you have cash in your hand and you're paying tuition flat out right. But if you're just stacking loans on top of loans that you already have, you're just accruing more debt. So I think the conversation is that how can parent and child take part in them going to college and let it be a combined effort? And that's a great way to teach them financial responsibility as well.
Absolutely. I have a 5-year-old, a pair of 5-year-olds, but a little girl and I were in the store today and she wanted to buy a My Little Pony. And I'm always trying to teach her as best as I can financial management. So she's at the stage where it's like, yeah, I want to buy this. I'm like, okay, with what money? She's like, oh, with your money, just give it to me. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works, honey. Everybody works for their money. So what are you going to do to earn this My Little Pony? And so,
Right.
Am I doing pretty good? Am I pretty good with
that?
that?
Yeah, you are. You're doing pretty good with it. Even though she's very young, Bridget, that makes sense, is that it's not mommy's money. That's not how the real world works, because again, as I mentioned, as parents, sometimes we want to give our kids everything. And that's great. But when it comes to finances and we know that there's still work for us to do, that's not an honest conversation with our kids. And it's not that they need to carry that stress and understand, oh, well, we have debt and mommy and daddy have debt, and they need to understand that language. But what it is great is teach them, when you go to a store, things cost money, and you're not going to always be able to use mom and dad's money to get it. So it's great to teach them, if they get an allowance, okay, let's keep saving this up until you're able to afford that My Little Pony.
That's good. Okay, so I'm on the right track. The expert said I am. So that's good.
Right track.
When it comes to building the financial empire, how do we do that? Some of us have the goal of retiring early. Some of us have the goal of, maybe we're 50 or 60 and we're looking at trying to retire. What's the best path through retirement so that, one, when we retire, we can actually enjoy our lives and, maybe leave some. And and that's probably two questions. How do you feel about, leaving money to family and friends? I've heard some maybe millionaires, billionaires that say, hey, I earned my money. They got to earn their money, so I'm not going to leave them a whole lot.
Yeah.
So the first question,
right.
How do you build your financial empire? And secondly, how much of that should you leave to, to your family?
Well, I think when it comes to building your financial empire, Bridget, it's if you want to retire early, it's definitely all about saving more and minimizing everything that you possibly can. So let's think before you're 60 years old, because now you hear people say, I want to retire when I'm around 45. And the goal is 100%, whether we choose to believe it or not. And we can say that we want to retire early or not. But it's all about saving more, aggressively saving more, and living, really minimalizing everything that you can. Your expenses need to be very low. Because when it comes to retiring, Bridget, most people don't realize is that at retirement, you need to have at least 60 to 70%, sometimes 80% of your available income that you make to supplement that. So how many years are you able to survive off of that? If you only have between 60 to 70% of the income that you are accustomed to. A website, AARP, they have so many calculators on there that you can just simply put in information, a few questions they ask, and it will shoot you out a number. Bridget, you can retire by the age of this if you have this amount saved. So I would definitely say use that AARP, very simple questions, and it will tell you. So I think that's important to know when it comes to building a financial empire, is that how much do you need to have, Bridget, saved up so that you can live a certain period of time. So the age is 60, and now the rate for women specifically, we can live to we're 80 plus years old. My grandmother is 94 years old.
Wow, God bless her.
So when you think about that, you think about how much money do we really need to have saved up to live that period of time in our lives. Again, based on around 60%, 70% of what income that we have now.
And how much should you leave to your kids? Should you try to leave them, I know maybe some parents who are trying to leave their kids as much as possible and maybe not really enjoying their lives as much. So what would you recommend for those parents?
I think it's a personal decision, Bridget, when it comes to, are you the parent that when you leave here or you're no longer here, do you want where your kids no longer have to work again? So do you want to leave them millions, or do you just want to leave them something and say, hey, go buy your new car when I'm not here anymore? So I think it's a personal decision. Sometimes when it comes to life insurance, when you have life insurance, that's a good way to be able to leave money to friends and family. That's just another option beyond just saving money to leave to them, if that makes any sense.
Do you recommend whole life or term life?
I think it varies. So I think when you talk about term life insurance, Bridget, term life is typically for people that need to supplement income. So a good way insurance is to think about renting for a very long period of time, because here's the deal on term life. You rent for a very long period of time, but you have nothing to show for it in the end. Because term life, you don't accrue any money. You can't make any money off of that. Permanent insurance is a little bit different. It's like a homeowner. Having that, it accrues over a period of time. So that goes back to what we just stated. If you're someone that you want to leave money to family or maybe to friends, that may be the option to go. But if not, term may be for someone that's single and like, oh, hey, it's just me. I need to have enough insurance to like pay my bills off, bury me when I'm gone, and I'm good. But then permanent insurance may be for someone that has kids, or they may want to leave money for their parents. So that money accrues, so people are able to say, okay, I can go cash in their insurance policy. And that's typically how people register insurance, is that when someone leaves here and they're no longer here, we can cash in an insurance policy. So that's the real difference. So again, it's not about which is better or which one I recommend. It just depends on where you are in your life.
Okay, that's really good. So to wrap up, I know that you offer resources for people who are trying to build their financial empires, or really just trying to stop living check for check, check to check to start, and then other people who are trying to build their financial empire. One, I know that you have an app, which I downloaded, which I love. So tell us about the app and other resources that you offer.
Yeah, so the app is the Finance Bar Expense Manager app. So it's very simple, Bridget. I wouldn't call it a budget, but I would call it a guide. So what you do is you simply key in your income, and it will shoot out a number for you, a percentage and a dollar amount of how much you should be spending on certain expenses each month. So for those homeowners that we talked about, or people that are out there looking for a home, it will give you an amount that you should be paying out in rent or mortgage, transportation, basically everything that you can think of that you pay per month. So that's one resource. Again, it's a free resource. It's available for Android or Apple users. Then I also have the Finance Bar Members Club. It's a virtual members club for women that are interested in changing their financial lifestyle. And I like to call the Members Club more of an accountability partner, because every single month members receive a workbook, Bridget. They receive virtual sessions, very similar to what we're doing, on a specific topic each month. And it just keeps you accountable. So people receive blog posts all the time for things that they love or they want to buy, but what they rarely receive is information about your finances. So that's a $10 per month subscription. And then also the mobile bar, the mobile hub, that corporations, organizations, or educational institutions can reach out to us to come talk to their employees or their students as well.
I love that. And definitely with the app, the good thing that I've learned about the app is that if you don't know how to make a budget, then this is something really simple. All you have to know how to do is calculate your net income per month. That's all you have to know how to do. Put it right in there. And then there's a guide, like Marsha said, for how much you could spend on this, and that. And I think sometimes people fall short in their budgeting because they don't have a budget and they don't know how to budget. Right. And they say, well, this costs this amount, so I'm just going to get it, whether it's a home, whether it's mortgage or rent, whether it's a car, but some type of bill they have every month. And they say, I'm just going to get it. And then they wonder, why don't I ever have money? And I think it's because
that's right.
They don't take the time to look and see, well, this is actually what I really can afford. So I really like that app. Y'all go ahead to your Google Play, in your App Store, whatever phone service you have, and look for, it's the Finance Bar, right?
That's correct. Just go type in the Finance Bar and it'll pop up for you.
Perfect. Well, Marsha, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to talk to us tonight.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here.
Great. And I had a great time. It enlightened me on a couple of things. And for the audience, for the viewers, I hope that we've enlightened you, or Marsha has enlightened you as well. If you want to learn more about Marsha, you can go to her website, thefinancebar.com. You can also follow her on Instagram, Twitter. She's on all that stuff. So you can also get a free 5-day cleanse if you go to her website. You go ahead and put your email address in there. You'll automatically get a free 5-day cleanse where you can kind of have a little discussion with your money. Right, Marsha?
That's right. That's right. Exactly what it is.
Good. Well, thank you again. And thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to visit us at carolinastylemag.com. We hope you've enjoyed this and y'all have a great week. See ya.
Bye-bye.